Welcome to Below the Line, where we talk about working in Hollywood from the crew perspective. My name is Skid. I'm a former assistant director and your host.
Quiet on the set.
Today, we're talking about Sound of Falling, the film which won the jury prize at the 2025 Cannes Film Festival and was the German entry for Best International Feature Film at the 98th Academy Awards. The film did not receive any Oscar nominations, but was featured on the shortlists for both International Feature Film and Cinematography. And my guest today is the cinematographer, Fabian Gamper. Fabian, welcome to Below the Line.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Thanks for the invitation, and happy to do this.
Very excited to have you here and talk about this film. Joining me in the co-host chair this week is cinematographer and director David Tuttman, who is a frequent guest on Below the Line and who I know better as Tut. Nice to see you, Tut.
Hey, Skid, it's great to see you. And Fabian, very, very nice to meet you. And again, as I said just a minute ago, beautiful, beautiful movie. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you very much, and likewise, very pleased to meet you. Thanks for doing this.
Well, but first, let me get this out there for our listeners. This is a warning. Today's conversation will contain spoilers. If you missed the film's theatrical run, you don't have long to wait. It will be available on Mubi, the British streaming platform, on April 24th, 2026. Now, Fabian, I want to start with a little bit of interview context to kick us off. Tut last joined me on the podcast for our episode last month about the Oscar nominees for cinematography. And when I asked about films that may have been overlooked, our other subject matter expert, Patrick Cady, gave a shout out to Sound of Falling and mentioned you, Fabian, by name. Patrick also mentioned that he interviewed you for American Cinematographer, and he suggested you guys had gotten to hang out for a bit when you were in LA.
Yeah, it was such a nice meeting I had with Patrick. We first met for doing this interview for the ASC, and then we actually met and hang out because I was in LA. And it was. I think it was really one of my highlights of the whole traveling and the whole tour with the film to get in touch with him, and it was really a great conversation. And so nice he mentioned mentioned our film here, and so it goes great.
We appreciate they put in the plug in as well. We're going to talk more about the traveling and publicity for the film and what that was like. But first, let's go back to the beginning. Talk to me about how this film came together.
The film's director and co-writer Mascha Schilinski is also my wife, so we're in connection for quite a while now, and it was also clear for a long time that we're gonna do this film together. And it's actually just her second feature film, and it's even her first feature film out of film school. So we did one feature-length film called Dark Blue Girl, but we were still in film school back then. And the developing of the screenplay took quite a while. She wrote it together with Louise Peter, her co-writer, and the whole screenplay or the film, when you watch it, it has a very special kind of structure. It doesn't have like the typical plot, and it even doesn't have a main character or main plot line. So it really comes in kind of mosaic memory kind of structure, and to develop this structure, or sometimes maybe you could say even invite this kind of structure, because there are no really rules for it, how to hold together. Took them quite a while to puzzle it out, and I feel it contains a lot about this place where it takes place, because it all takes place on this one farmhouse in Germany over the span of 100 years. And it's about those people living on this farmhouse in 4 different decades. So there are 4 different time periods where we insights of them. And it's really also about how these people who didn't met each other in real life, there's some little connections, but barely, but how their lives are still connected to each other, or how the things that happened in the past are affecting the people from other generations or being there, and the transgenerational trauma was kind of a subject when they were in research. So there's a lot of ideas they were researching and they were wanted to tell. And by finding this place, this farmhouse was then kind of a container for all these things and for all these scenes, and a vessel to bring it together. And yeah, but still the developing of the screenplay took quite a while. I think they worked for like 3 or 4 years on it. So yeah, and then finally it all came together and we were able to shoot it. And it's almost entirely this one location where it takes place. There's some exterior scenes on a field or on a river nearby, but it's the most part of it is in this farmhouse.
Talk to me more about the farmhouse, because you said the farmhouse is sort of the anchor for all these 4 time periods. I'm curious, and again, this is the AD in me. I'm going to presume that talk to me about the scheduling. Talk to me about your thoughts on how you approach each time period from a cinematographer's point of view. Just kind of how the house is both an anchor and where that's helpful or perhaps challenge for you.
Yeah, both. I mean, for production wise, it was in one side it was very much helpful, because of course everything is centered on this base. So the I think the best advantage of it is you have to find accommodation for team and cast once, and they're all there as close as possible. And but even the equipment, I mean, we didn't even have trucks throughout the shooting. We had trucks to bring the equipment and put it in a barn and got the trucks back in the end to give it back. So it had lots of logistical advantages. Also creatively, I think if you're preparing a film on a low budget, then I feel if you have like plenty of locations and the locations are even spread out, you easily you have to divide your energy through all those different places and find visual ideas for every place, and also technical solutions for every place. And this kind of limitation in the spaces you work on is somehow I feel it's kind of freeing, because you just be on one. If you're there on this one place, you can literally prep the whole film and think about it. And then also due to the fact that we were filming often the same rooms but in a different time period, which was kind of necessary to really sell the thing that it's the same place, because the farmhouse it's really big and there are many rooms. So and which is, of course, it's a kind of difficult then to make the schedule, because you have to repaint and redesign the sets. But for the storytelling, yeah, it was really necessary that you see this actually same room is here, but now in another timing. And for again, creatively, I love that, because you're really forced to design it the way you want. You can't take the things as they are, or for budgetary reasons go with a color on the wall that is there, because you anyway have to redesign it for this period and then for the other period, and you don't have so many locations, so you can really put in a lot of thoughts and of time to really decide how this room should look like in this time period. So that was great. And then again, yeah, for the schedule, it was quite difficult task to figure out the best solutions, because on one hand the thing is that for the most modern time period, like nowadays, we could use the location to quite an extent as it was, because it was actually an empty farmhouse, so it was empty for several decades. It was really an inspiring location, because when you scouted it and walked through the rooms, there are so many things left from owners that have been there like decades ago, and they left their things lying there. So it felt a little bit like a museum, or the feeling that we wanted to evoke in the film, that you kind of have access to the earlier times and to what happened in these rooms before, or you like scratch the wall and then you see there is a little bit of the painting that was there like before. So they're like layers of time that are still alive, kind of. So this kind of feeling that we also really wanted to show in the modernist time period, that was already there to a big extent. I mean, we still worked on it and designed it with our great Cosima Valenza, who did production design, but we could use a lot of it as it was. So for this reason, we decided to primarily start with this period, so to shoot as much as possible the most modern scenes in the house as it was, and then go backwards. I think the idea was then to go back to the 1910s, which was the earliest decade, and then coming back from there to the more modern time. So this gave us kind of a basic approach in in how to do it. But then there were other challenges, like scheduling for the actor who were not like available like all the time, but also the big actually I think the biggest challenge for the schedule that we were working with so many children, which of course gives you the problem that they can't shoot for so many hours a day. So I think in Germany it's like 3 hours of shooting and 5 hours being present. Uh, and of course, with the amount of time we had, we should have to try to shoot longer than 3 hours each day. So we kind of should combine, if it's possible, scenes from the different periods, so we can fill up the day with children that work for other casts from another time episode. So that make us like puzzle if it's possible to have scenes like in another room that we can already paint, or we also choose then to film some rooms only in one time period, so they could be prepared from the start, so we can go there. But then, and obviously the exterior scenes could be shot from another scene. But then also we needed the exterior scenes to be shot for the art department to change the rooms, because we couldn't stop the shooting. They had to redress the rooms while we were shooting. So that should be kind of reserved, the exterior shots for this purpose. But then we also had to deal with weather. So it was a very rainy summer, and we had sometimes couldn't shoot outside because of the rain. So it was quite the thing, this schedule. We talked about it a lot, and it was a lot of thoughts in it, and then we were surprised by the weather, so we still had to change it. But yeah, but somehow it it worked out in the end.
You know, I'm going to hand the reins over to Tut to ask more questions about the cinematography in your process. But before I do, I just want to confirm that, and you can tell me if the wiki's wrong, but the German title is In die Sonne schauen, which translates as looking into the sun, which I think really does draw even more attention to the amount of work you're doing with cinematography and how that's helping carry the story. I'm curious about the original title, and again, that just seems to not, I'm going to say inform your work, but it does speak to the role that cinematography is telling in playing this story.
Yeah, true. With this this Word of the Sun, of course, it's kind of a cinematography related title. I agree with that.
One of my main approaches as a cinematographer is the room tells me what to do. The location, in many ways, tells me what to do. The physics of the room govern, because it feels to me that you're very much a naturalist, and I am too. I share that sentiment. I tend not to over editorialize with lights, but it felt to me like you were very conscious of the contribution of the space to the look, and honoring the location. And my question within that is, were there particular rules for time periods? Or, as we get into later ages, of course, there's more chance for practical lighting and other things. But were there particular rules and approaches based upon the material of the time examined, or in terms of your approach, were there things you wanted to adhere to throughout the movie?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it was really, I think, like a center of it, how to approach these different time periods and how to create this um, effect that we were after, that they are kind of connected and speak to each other, but in this kind of mystical way we intended it. And one of the first things that we thought might be the approach is to stylistically really approach them kind of equal. And that was something I feel that really we really stick to that afterwards. Stylistically, I mean, in terms of how we move the camera, how we do framings, but also in with the lighting. And I think like this naturalism, of course, and this being true to the location, but also in the way we because we didn't we didn't do it like really available light often. We often lit it, but in a way the way we wanted it, but we tried to have this natural feeling. And we also played a lot with darker scenes, or had this little movement in the sun and all those things. But all these approaches, we really thought they are there for the whole film, and in every time period, because we felt uh, in our film, it's not like there is one main time period which is supposed to be nowadays, and everything that happens is like, okay, some of the people remember something that happened, and it's kind of this traditional flashback, so it should have a different look, so everybody knows, this is a flashback. So we thought more like it's this the film works like everything in this film is kind of a memory or a flashback. So the idea behind for us, where it's like maybe it's like 100 or 1,000 years later, and those people are remembering what happened, and it kind of interweaves, and everything, and in the meantime everything is also happening now, or like as if the time wouldn't be existing anymore. So this was kind of the concept behind, and therefore we thought, yeah, we really wanted to treat it kind of equal. And then on the other hand, of course, you still want the audience to feel that they're in another time period. And after thinking about it, we felt that we really don't need to have like a specific approach for a camera to show that, because of the whole art department and the decorations of the rooms, but also the costumes and the number of people, because in the earlier days there were so much more people there, and there's the things they're doing, like harvesting with all machinery, versus in the new days where there's these girls with the modern kind of clothes and the cell phones. We felt like it's immediately clear with which time period you're actually in, and so we decided also the look in the grading. We didn't we used actually the same, really the same look for we applied to all the different time periods. And then also in the lighting, we felt that, but of course the practicals were different, that were used in each time period. And simply but also there, it's like stylistically, for me, it was kind of the same approach, because we used a lot of practical lighting in the night scenes, not only but heavily. I mean, we usually you of course extend what the practicals are giving to you, but I think we're a little bit more on the practical heavy side. So I really try to use the practicals as actual light sources to light the faces, and extended it a bit, of course. And yeah, we really stick with that concept, but just simply, of course, using different practicals. Like for in the 1910s, it was almost all lit by fire, by oil lamps and candles. So we have this very warm tone, and characters often carry their little lanterns or a candle, so they have like the warmish light on the face, and the rest becomes pretty dark. So that, of course, sets a color palette and the tone that was then for the earlier times, where, for example, in the most modern time, they had this modern LED flashlight, which is very bluish, very harsh, and very strong light. And yeah, we try to, and also there, the approach was to be naturalistic in a way that we don't do too much of a fill or ambient light, and not have like the set lit up so you can see air everywhere, but have it pretty dark, more like as if you're really watching into an old farmhouse and seeing it by eye, where you like lost for a moment and don't see anything, and then you switch on your flashlight and you see the little dot it's giving, and it bounces a little bit, but still that you carry the light with you, and it's and a lot of it is kept in the darkness, and it's in secret, which I felt really helped us for the whole tonality of the film. And yeah, because of this other kind of lighting, it of course it gave you another color palette and then another kind of look, like a little bit. But yeah, the approach was kind of similar.
That naturalism, that we spoke about, you talk about, though, is complemented by a wonderful bit of what I call emotional quality. The lighting's very evocative and sets a tone as opposed to just putting you in the place. And within that, you brought up the grading of the film. Did you have a DIT with you?
First of all, thanks for saying that. That's actually what we had in mind when doing this thing, for like having a light that has this natural look, but still this intention and this meaning with it, which I think is this kind of balance you try to go for. So
For sure.
thanks for
That's our job, I think, really,
yeah.
is, we're there to help provide the emotion and
Yeah,
the believability and you know the 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 power of the moment, aside from just the depiction of a space and nicely displaying our human subjects.
exactly.
So I very much admired that, and it made me wonder how much was in, because I've worked with the DIT and without, and you can get amazing results with both. Although I love having a DIT personally,
Yeah.
um, but the grading was spectacular, and I was wondering how much of that was explored in post with your colorist, or whether you very much, whether in camera you were able to provide yourself with the look, to a
Yeah.
degree at least, you share with the audience.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the process was that we didn't have a DIT on set. Also, I think because of budgetary reasons, it was
Yeah.
like the question was always, how can we even do this film with this budget? And everything that was not like completely necessary, we had to go without. So that was kind of the premise
Yeah.
all the time.
Yes.
So yeah, and then the first thing we talked about in kind of look was that we wanted to shoot it on film. So Mascha and I shot a short film on 16 millimeter, and we really loved this approach, and we loved the graininess, and we thought like the texture of 16 millimeter would very much be the thing that we're going for. But again, this was for the budgetary reason. It was clear they can't cover the costs. But what we had was that I could do some testing because we had access to the location. I could get some cameras and lenses there in the preparation time. And we were both in terms of how the final look would be, but also in the approach of shooting. We thought it would be very nice if it would get a little bit into the feeling of actually shooting on film. And what we did is that we developed a lookup table with those tests, which was based on a power grade that emulates Kodak film. And then on top of that, I went a bit further and experimented. So we tried to mimic like really old film that is the colors are already off, and kind of a little bit Ektachrome feel, and some kind of place there. And yeah, so we had lots of test images from the farmhouse, and experimented with them. And then for out of these sessions, I had like some different variations of a lookup table, which I loaded into the monitors. And we had we had a very small camera team. It was just a focus puller, a second camera assistant, and a data wrangler. That was it. But I convinced them to also take care of this lookup table. But I mean, the management on set is not that complicated. Once you're there, that you have them. I mean, we just gave them through camera. I mean, you can also, not sure if we had them in the camera or even in the
Right.
monitor, but we you can anyway, I had them on my little screen, but we also had them on the director's monitor, on every monitor, just given out from the camera. And
Perfect.
I in the approach, which is a method I often do if there's like it's this low budget approach, because I think if you go kind of extreme, and the lookup table is kind of extreme. So it's when you compare what is coming out of the camera, even with the 709 applied, and compare it to what the look is doing, it's really a different image. So it's going to an extreme place. And I think for me, it's really difficult to work with an image on a monitor that has this Rec 709 conversion as given by the manufacturer, and have in mind that the film should look like that, and then lighting for that. I think I know many colleagues are doing that or prefer kind of to having this image, but for me it's kind of difficult. I feel if I look through a viewfinder of a film camera where I don't have a monitor, you have to imagine anyway how it's going to look like later when it
course.
comes an image. So that's fine, but if it's already an image you're looking at, I think it's kind of difficult, especially if you go in an extreme kind of place. If you're staying close to that, it's fine. But in this case, and also because we could design so much with the colors, and when we even did some tests for the colors of the wall, to figure out how that should look. So so for that purpose, it was really important for me to see this graded image on the monitor, and to be sure to have like something to react on. I had like some variations of the lookup table, but in the first few shooting days, we figured out we didn't need the variation, so we really kind of stick to that one single lookup table and kept it through the shooting. I mean, I had variations for the night scenes, because I usually like to expose the night scenes properly, even if we go to like this really extreme darkness, which I think which I love to do. Then I don't want to have the negative or the digital negative to be like messed up and just underexposed details. Right? So I had like lookup tables that go down one stop or two stops, and but we stick with them. And then even in the final grade, of course you have the flexibility then again, because you have a proper exposed negative. And we did a little try around, but we then felt like it's pretty much working, the lookup tables we had. So obviously we did the grade and the corrections and everything with Mike Letzius, who was a great colorist for this film. But as a basic approach, we stick with the kind of grade we built in the preparation.
What camera did you use to shoot the movie?
We had an Arri Alexa Mini as the main camera, and then we also had the Sony FX6 and a drone for like 2 shots, and for one little shot I had a little Panasonic GH5S, but that's just like a little thing somewhere there. So the main thing is really the Alexa and the FX6. And the reason for the FX6, I mean the Alexa, by that time the Alexa 35 was quite new, so it was again a budgetary restrictions. We couldn't go for the Alexa 35. So we had the Mini. I shot a lot with the Mini, and I felt like very comfortable with the Alexa anyway. So that was kind of a clear decision to go with that. But then I had plenty of special lenses, mainly photography lenses, that I kind of manipulated to create some other effects. That was a reason for me to also include a camera with a large format sensor to cover those lenses. And on the other hand, I wanted to take the advantage of a camera that is more sensitive, because of those practical scenes where nowadays it's just they're obviously their cameras there, you can go further than with the Alexa Mini. And FX6 was great because it was just available. It's not a big budgetary deal if you take one with you or not. Yeah, I really like it. I think it was the first time that I really used it, and so I also did some tests. And with this lookup table and this kind of 16 millimeter emulation that we had, because we also obviously we added a lot of grain, and we also defocused the image a little bit afterwards, and did all the halation and that. And with this whole process applied, and like a color conversion to Alexa and then our grade, the tests were pretty good. So I felt it matches pretty well. And so we ended up then shooting often for the night scenes with the Sony, and for those effects with the Sony, and like the normal the days things with Alexa.
You're making me think of in an interview years ago, where I said, well, because they wanted to shoot with the Pro adapter so we could use Primo lenses on a camcorder, and my big question was, can we embrace digital and make a beautiful digital movie and separate film from cinematic? That you can be cinematic digitally. Your movie definitely proves it. I mean, in a huge way. It's a very emotionally evocative movie, and a lot of that comes for me, from the look. The performances were very sweet and tender, and interesting. But I found that the POV approach, the warmth of the sense of the location in a way as a character, really took me on a great trip.
Well, we've got a couple of scenes we've selected. We decided ahead of time we can talk about some of your specific techniques, Fabian. And
Sure.
to the degree you want to tie things in, or you've got specific questions on those. Fabian, why don't you introduce this first scene? For those who are listening at home, it's about 2 hours and 10 minutes in. We're set in the 1910s. Fabian, what are we establishing in the scene we're going to watch here?
So yeah, the reason why I thought it might be interesting to talk about the scene is that we faced the difficulty for the lights, that we had the room where little Alma is staying in front of the door, looking through the keyhole, is connected to the exterior, which we actually liked. So it's a kind of a narrow floor, and on both sides you have an open door. And one side is facing the interior of the farmhouse, and the other side is just the backyard. And then we have this other room where we see what Alma sees through the keyhole. And in the end of the scene, she runs through the hallway and exits. So we had for the light, we had to deal with the situations that we had to have one scene with two different rooms, but also including the exterior, like for the scene that happens afterwards when she runs outside, but also the scenes where her scene in the interior were really connected to the exterior, because we wanted. But this was something we really were after, because we felt it's very important generally to understand that it's the same farmhouse, that this place, to include the exterior and to connect it, like what's happening inside, and to actually see something outside of the window, which technically usually is a big challenge, because the light values are just so different. Usually you put something like a wheel, and then it's just blown out outside, and you have an easier life, but then you don't see anything outside. So and what comes together in this scene for me is kind of a love we had for silhouettes, because this is obviously an easy approach to get an interior scene and seeing outside, to just expose for the outside, and everything inside becomes very dark. But usually I think when you're shooting a scene, it's not possible to do that, because obviously you want to see the faces of the actors inside. At least maybe it's possible and nice for a short moment, but for a whole scene, usually you can't do that. So you end up either blasting in a lot of light, but then it can feel artificial easily, or you change your mind and expose differently. And this, I was happy with this scene, because it was a place where we really could go for the silhouettes, because it's just a short moment when little Alma is coming down and walking, and also from the frame, we could do a frame where she's really then silhouetted against the door. So because if she would not be overlapping with the door, and you have her overlap with the wall inside, you don't see her at all, because it's not a silhouette, obviously. But it worked that we could see her walking against this thing, and then you have a reverse shot when she's at the actual door looking through it, and also before she is there, there's like a maid also standing there looking through it, which is a frame that I'm really happy how it came together, because at that moment the actual real sun was shining through the door into our location. and it bounced off the door that she was looking at. So we had this frame which was really kind of a silhouette, but in the actual place where we needed the light, which is her face, she was quite lit because of this bounce of the sun. This is kind of a thing when thinking about that. It's for me kind of the way I would love to shoot films, because it's, I think for this specific shot, it's like no lighting is involved. It's just what
Beautiful.
the sun is doing, but it's so rarely that it actually comes together, because usually it just doesn't look like that, and the sun is not in the position and everything. But we kind of anticipated the shot that it would be like that, and then we had to do the timing, at which time of the day we shoot what anyway, and we wanted to have the scene afterwards when she's running out, um, already without sun. So when the sun is already lower, so it's not in this backyard anymore. So we put this scene really on the end of the day when the sun is really low, and then we realized that just before the sun is going down, it's in this position where it shines through this door. So we could time this shot at the beginning, or at the beginning of the scene, to catch this little bit of sun coming through, and then when we turned the direction and shot the other shot with when Alma finally runs outside, the sun was already gone, and we had this kind of it was not down, it was a little bit before down, but the sun was already behind the wall, and we had this fire, then kind of mixed light situation of fire and the exterior light, which was not so bright anymore. So this was kind of the thing for this scene, which was pretty much available. And then, but to shoot the whole scene in this light, the time, there would not have been enough time with the sun in this position to shoot also the scene in the kitchen where they are talking. And also we had to split it anyway because of the timing of the actors, because the Alma was that actor who had the most scenes. So we had to make sure we can shoot a lot of scenes without her being there, and that was actually a big benefit for these keyhole scenes, because we could shoot our POV without her being there. And we just had this little keyhole made by the art department, which was obviously a bit bigger than a keyhole, but just a piece in front of the camera. And then we actually lit the scene in a kind of traditional approach with HMIs, reflectors in front of the windows, to create this lighting that would match the other scene, but we didn't have to shoot it at a specific time of a day, which is in such a schedule anyway really difficult to get the time for it. But we could separate this scene from this kind of available light management and just light it, and also we didn't have the children involved, so we could be like a bit more relaxed with that, and only had to do this other few shots with Alma and with this specific time of a day for the rest of the scene.
Very cool. Mark Twain was quoted as saying, "Good luck is the result of prior planning."
Yeah,
And
yeah, right.
it feels like this is perfect example of that. Just a great plan and great circumstance. It's
Yeah, it forces you to figure out those things, and um I feel like it's always very important to have the time somewhere. I mean, if you don't have the time to plan, then you're kind of lost with not having anything. And also with those kind of concepts, I feel if you end up doing that you take scenes apart and put some shots at a certain time of the day. Of course, you need to be very sure of how you're going to shoot the scene, and you can't just improvise that much. On the other hand, it is a little bit of improvisation involved, or improvisation, not necessarily improvisation, but reacting to what's happening, because the sun might be a little bit different, or it might be it might be foggy or anything. So you still have to react, but sure, you have to be, I think, very clear in the concept and the approach to do it. And I feel if you have that base, then you can also be very quick in working, because we had to execute the shots pretty quickly. But I feel like in the shot, in a nice, when you have a nice position of the sun and figure out angles that work nicely for this position, it's probably the fastest way of shooting, of doing this shot in a way. It just takes away the flexibility to do other stuff.
right. Yeah, as long as it is that whole thing. As long as it works.
Yeah, as long as it
If it
works.
doesn't work, if
Yeah.
it doesn't work, then what? Right. But there that but shooting with available light is, it's a live by the sword, die by the sword
Yeah.
type of moment, and it's I love it. It's exhilarating. It's courageous. And also depending on the job, the demands necessary. I mean, there are all sorts of reasons why it was advantageous to this movie to approach it that way in terms of
Yeah.
schedule and the kid, the scheduling of kids and all that. It's really interesting.
I think that scene
Thanks.
does capture a lot of the challenges you had with this film, Fabian, in general, and I'm really glad we chose to share that one. The next scene we're going to do is addressing a more specific incident, and that is a continuation of Alma's story in 1910, where her sister, who we saw in the earlier scene, is now departing on a carriage to go be with this other family. We won't get into the plot details there. First, we've got the horses and this large carriage of hay with her sitting on top, close ups of her. Alma watching and waving. And then when we cut back, she falls from the carriage. And as we learn later, family's running over. She has committed suicide. Talk us about your challenges in bringing this scene to screen.
Yeah, this was a stunt coordination challenge, um, because obviously it was this suicide of her, and we had to figure out a way to sell this to the audience, which was not so easy. And then talking about like hay wagons and the possible dangers of them and what could have happened there, we figured out that this kind of thing would have been lethal and really dangerous if she falls, like if she sits on top and falls in front, and then the wagon would drive over her. So this would be like a realistic scenario that is might end little. So but then we discussed it with our great stunt coordinator, and it was really a, a challenge to find a way of how to film that, because when the wagon was moving, even if there would be like mattresses or anything, it would still be very dangerous for her to fall down in front. And um, we didn't want to use a stunt double. Anyway, it would have been dangerous for a stunt double as well, probably too dangerous to do this in the moving. And we also, the falling is quite a close shot, because we wanted to shoot like her last gaze at her sister. So we wanted to really recognize her and see her acting, and then have her fall in front. So like a stunt double or even a puppet wouldn't have worked out. So what we then felt could work, because we shot the scene on a very long lens. We had a Cox on the 35 millimeter sensor this time, but we had like the Cox zoom 25 to 250, but I had the doubler, so it was, I think, like around 300 or almost 400 millimeter. So really tight lengths to show, to kind of illustrate this long point of view from her standing further back in the field and watching her. And also the reverse shot was quite on a long lens, because we felt that it gives us the feeling that they're watching each other. And then we thought about the thing that on such a long lens, you kind of lose the sense of perspective a lot. And to sell the goal of her be driving on this wagon, all it needed to make it feel like that is that the background should move around, which was kind of blurry and compressed in space because of the long lens. So we figured that if we put the camera on a track and had the wagon stationary and just like the stunt mattress in front of it, we could just wiggle the wagon a little bit and have her falling in a safe, controlled way with a wagon that is not moving, and create the illusion of movement by just counter driving with the dolly, and keep her in frame with the camera. And it was a bit of we couldn't really test it completely, but when we set it up the day and shot it, I think nobody ever asked me, nobody ever asked me about it. It didn't believe it. I think it I think it worked out. And yeah, it's also I kind of choose it to this scene to explain this thing because again, it's kind of a principal approach to the film to which was not to for stunts or there's some kind of stunt scenes involved. We didn't want to go for um like the maximum effect or like with many cuts to show a stunt as impressive and as spectacular as possible. It was of course more about this kind of idea of memory and how you remember something and how it has an emotional impact to you. And we felt that even in a world where we had like all the budgets available or could do it like afterwards in the compositing or whatever, we still I think we still wouldn't have wanted to show like all those angles or spectacular you could make out of something. It was anyway from the concept more about finding a simple shot that has like for us the most emotional impact on the audience. So I think we kind of find a spot to connect the challenge of doing it with what we had artistically in mind with the scene.
And the long lens really helps to just put you in the heads of the characters in the moment, and by capitalizing on the emotion of the scene like that, you anything that comes after becomes more believable, in that world of memory.
Yeah.
Because like you said, memory is selective in its way, and it's only pieces of everything. And life is like that. You don't have to show everything, complete everything, for the result to have emotional impact. I very much respect that, and it's more artful storytelling. It feels like
Yeah,
so.
yeah, absolutely, and as you said, I think the long lens, which is something that I didn't use it that often. I think it kind became kind of a more general approach to shoot it with kind of a medium wide angle lens to feel like you're there, which totally makes sense. And for many scenes, I think it's the most intuitive thing to shoot it like on a 32 mil and stay on it. That's an approach I also feel very familiar with. But for
Yeah.
this exactly for this region, I think it gives you next to the point of view that it highlights. It's also this level of abstractation it gives to you. Yeah, which I totally agree. It's sometimes it's so important that you don't see like everything and get more in this kind of specific thing that somebody might have remembered. And then I think like it's like finding ways of taking away some information, and there the long lens sometimes can really help.
Life isn't perfect. Yeah. Yeah. So
The third scene we want to cue up is earlier in the film, set in the 1980s, with Angelica down on the riverbank with her cousin and her uncle. Talk to us about what we're trying to achieve here.
Yeah, this it's the scene where her uncle and their cousin are watching her as her uncle and the cousin no, the two of them were swimming because he was giving them a swimming lesson because they're training for a swimming race. And then in the end, she's still in the water, and then coming out of the water in the bikini, and the two men are watching her. And the scene is mainly about, I think it's really a key scene for another very important aspect of the film, which is this gaze that like the way men were looking at women, which is also something that really connects those times, because it was always the thing that women were exposed to those gazes, right? And the scene there, I mean, the whole film is a lot about the gazes that those women have, of course, and which was also a reaction to the fact that there were so many stories about those times were like written by men and out of a male perspective, and so little about the maids and what they are seeing. And there is it's really kind of an important subject to the film, as the voiceover says, that the voiceover is like Angelica's thoughts, and she's describing how she's standing there and she's facing off the camera. She's not really looking, but she's like 100% aware of the two men looking at her. So this is kind of what the scene's about. And then again, we have a slightly longer shot of which is a POV of the man. looking at her and looking at her body. And what was cinematographically important for me was this thing that Rainer, her cousin, is playing with his watch, which reflects the sun and makes this little dot of sunlight projected on her, on Angelica, and he's panning on her body with that. And this was actually already in the screenplay, so it was described like that in the screenplay, which I think I haven't mentioned before, that the film really as a whole thing was written already very visually. So that's I mean, there's really little dialogue, and Mascha really related on visuals even in the writing. So that was already there. Yeah, and I feel seeing this shot gave us the opportunity to kind of highlight even more in a way that was really fun to do, like how he's looking at her and giving this shot even more the perspective of this point of view, because it was also, as I said, a very big subject for us to find point of views during this film, like this one look through the door hole. So we often really try to go into the characters' minds or into in his heads and see the world through their eyes. And this little point for us was also to even highlight even more, like how he's looking at her and seeing this little piece of light on her.
Now, I was also struck, Fabian, that idea of the light bouncing off of her. I noticed that technique again later in the film. Near the end of Angelica's story, she runs off as they're taking the Polaroid, and then cousin Reiner is looking for her, and there seems to be a light dancing around on his face and body in a similar manner. And so I'm curious if that was an intentional callback to the other filming, or what your thought was in that scene, what you were trying to achieve with a similar technique.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was this connection to her, or her leaving now. So what is the situation is with the Polaroid is that they take the Polaroid, and she was there, and on the Polaroid she's already kind of blurred because she left. But the idea was to make her feel like a ghost who is like almost not there anymore. And then in the voiceover, he's missing her, but saying he's at this point she's already not like completely sure if she even existed or if she was there, or he just imagined her. So it's about her disappearing, and then this light coming out of nowhere is of course like connect to this other scene where the light kind of the light of her is shining back on him.
The effect of the light was done by you or by one of your electricians, I imagine, to keep control of it so that you weren't worried about affecting an actor. Is that correct?
It was, yeah, that's correct. Although I have to admit, uh, I mean, it definitely it was not the watch, because the watch itself didn't do this kind of reflection. So we used a little piece of mirror to do that, which was of course provided and tested by the electricians. But I'm not totally sure whether the shot when we don't have him in frame, but when we actually pan on Angelica, I'm not sure anymore if it was an electrician doing the pan or if we gave it to the actor to do the pan. I forgot about it. It might be that we gave it to the actor because it was he was much.
It is a character thing, right? I mean,
Sure, it
it's
is. Yeah,
creepy and it's manipulative and an attempt at mastery where one has no business being a
yeah.
master. So
Absolutely.
so I very interesting. So
Yeah,
there's part of me which thinks it has to be the actor
yeah.
so
I
as
think
to be proper, to
talking about it.
intrude properly. But
Talking about it, I also think it must have been the actor doing that. And what I'm sure is that the reverse shot, when we see the actor doing it, he's obviously doing it with his watch, but the watch wasn't really doing anything with the sun. So we had an electrician hiding close to the frame with a mirror to do a little flare effect into the lens. So that gave us
nice.
that, which I think when you look at it, you can spot it like a little bit. So when we look at it in a technical way, you can figure it out that it's not the watch doing it, but in the film, I think it works totally.
Very cool.
Fabian, we've barely scratched the surface. I mean, I honestly feel in watching this film, any scene we pulled out, the techniques you brought and the challenges of what you did and how it's captured, we could we could continue on and on talking about it. For listeners who would like to hear more about your work on Sound of Falling, I do strongly recommend you seek out Fabian's interview with Patrick that I mentioned at the start of today's episode. I found it by searching ASC, that's the American Society of Cinematographers, and Clubhouse Conversations. It popped right up. And yeah, again, so much to share on this. Before we finish, though, I want to hear your reflections on awards season. Now, for a lot of Americans, awards season ends with the Academy Awards. And as we mentioned, shortlist, but no nominations. So you guys weren't attentive to that. But I also know the German Film Awards are scheduled for the 29th of May. So just a little over a month from now. Talk to me both about what it was like going through award season now, and then what you guys are looking forward to next month.
Yeah, it was really great, and it was a lot of fun for us because it was really not what we expected when doing the film. Because on one hand, it was just Mascha's second feature length film, and on the other hand, because it's I think so much on an art house kind of side, which we thought it might be a niche kind of film type. I mean, we thought it might be, or hopefully many people enjoying it and watching it, which is obviously always the thing you hope for when making a film. But we thought it might be that it also might end up being really a niche, and then starting the film's run with Cannes in the competition was such a great start, and such a nice thing. And we then ended up being the submission for Germany for the Oscar race was yeah, it was great because we didn't had this expectation, and I feel like we were really the underdog film in the whole race. So that, I think that position gives you kind of relaxedness to go through it and not so much pressure. So it was for us a big joy to travel to the States and to meet the people such as Patrick, as we talked about it earlier. Yeah, so it was really a nice, a really great experience for us, and a great opportunity to meet international filmmakers and producers and come around the world. So yeah, we enjoyed it a lot. And yeah, and now the German Film Awards, it's really great because we are nominated in many categories, and yeah, looking forward to that too.
I think you're nominated in all the categories. I think that makes you the sinners of the German Film Awards. It feels like
Yeah,
there's recognition across the board over there.
yeah.
Definitely good luck with that. We'll be pulling for you next month. Beyond that, though, Fabian, what's next for you?
Well, there's several things I'm considering or talking about. So I have not one project that I can name you now. But it's great that I think the film opened up the opportunity for me to meet international filmmakers from different areas. And yeah, let's see what's next. But yeah, hopefully I will shoot soon something.
One thing we didn't talk about, which the relationship between cinematographers and directors
Yeah.
are often, they're fascinating and intense. And that you and Mascha, that you guys did this together as a husband and wife and husband. I'm very impressed. There's I think it's a fascinating dynamic without the fascinating dynamic of marriage, and the two of you know each other a long time now. It sounds like you met in school from what you said.
Yeah.
So that would be a my wife's a writer, not a screenwriter, and we talk story all the time, but I would love to sit down with you and your wife and just glean more about the process between the two of you. But that's a whole other interview, it feels like. But
yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, we can do another interview about that. But I think the great the great thing about it is, for once, I feel that you just spend so much time together without doing an arrangement or like saying, now let's have a call now or go somewhere now to talk about this project. So you don't really have to do that because you're together anyway all the time. So it's kind of a fluent transition between whatever else you're doing and prepping the film. And I think that very much suits the creative process of a mind is working with, because sometimes anyway, you have this in other collaboration as well, that you have ideas, you talk and you have an idea, and then you probably write it down and talk about it the next meeting you have. But I think it's great that you like spontaneously out of nowhere you can start a conversation or do a little work on that. And yeah, for me that's kind of a very natural way on how to follow a creative process. So that's a benefit, I would say. And on the other hand, when shooting, I think it's great to work with somebody you're so familiar with, that you sometimes can be very straightforward in figuring what's the solution to do, because you're not like you're not holding back, or you don't have to be polite because you don't know each other so well. You can be very straight in pointing whether you like it or not, and what you don't like about it, and you already know each other so well. So I think you're very quick in finding what to change, or the shortcuts you kind of to develop knowing each other so well, and also the disputes you can have about something, because you're already really known to a way to dispute over things, and I think this helps too.
Whether the next project is a collaboration or whether you and Mascha do separate things, we are very excited to see what's next. Fabian, on that note, though, for today, we're going to call it a wrap. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a great pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Listeners, we're continuing to publish both audio and video edits of these episodes, so if you're only listening to the podcast, consider checking us out on YouTube as well. However you're joining us, I always appreciate your feedback. My email address is skid@belowtheline.biz. That's B-I-Z. Closing credits, thanks to Curtis Vine for our music and John Wan for our logo. The logo is available on t-shirts, mugs, and stickers at redbubble.com. If you've enjoyed the show, please give us a positive rating and tell your friends. Thanks again from Below the Line. And at the risk of pulling back the curtain, this is where my notes suggest post-credits banter. So if either of you has any final remarks, this is where we put them in. Anything? Fabian, I hope you had fun. You've been very tolerant with our technical hiccups. If you see Patrick, tell him that this was better than his. That is a bit of a competition. That would be a big favor. This was more fun than his. But
yeah, it was great. So it was a lot of hiccups when I was talking, or because for me it kind of it kind of worked, and I had fun. It was great.